Look out for crypto mining features, or you could get the mine shaft.
Hey, Mike. So what's the story you have for us today?
So I came across something that I thought was pretty interesting. Now, I can't remember where I picked up this saying, but it goes, once is an accident, twice is coincidence, three times is a trend. And I think about that a lot, just when I do stuff. And when I came across this story, it made me think, because Norton 360 Antivirus, about middle of last year, introduced a crypto mining feature in their antivirus product so that you too could turn on crypto mining on your endpoint. And they basically gave each registered user their own custodial crypto wallet up in their cloud service, and they took a 15% cut of any crypto mining that your endpoint did. Now, this didn't get a lot of press. This didn't get a lot of press at the time, but recently there was a blogger who was like, hey, wait a minute, this is getting turned on by default. What's up with that? And it kind of created a bit of an uproar here in the last couple of weeks, and it kind of brought this back into kind of the sort of consciousness of the internet. And there's a lot of opinions about this, right? And for the record, apparently Norton and their website has confirmed that this is an opt-in feature. You get customers have to go turn it on. But what's interesting is that the group that owns Norton has also purchased another antivirus product called Avira that has about 500 million installs out there. And starting here in September of 2021, other virus programs started detecting a coin miner installer as part of that product and flagging it as high risk. And now they've unveiled this Avira crypto miner service as well. So now you've got a coincidence. You've got two products that are now incorporating a coin mining monetization strategy after you've actually bought and licensed the product, right? And so this is really interesting, especially when you look at some press announcements that Norton LifeLock, kind of the overall parent company, is also looking to acquire Avast, which is another kind of free antivirus product with about another 500 million users reportedly out there also. And so while that hasn't really come to fruition yet, one can sort of see that trend coming down the pipe, right? That third instance of them implementing a crypto mining feature inside of the endpoint product that's designed, because it's a security product, to be always on and always doing something, right? So this is really interesting because everyone is looking for ways to, get ahead, right? Everyone's looking for ways to increase their monetization abilities inside of their market. And so when you look at this, it raises a lot of interesting questions. The first of which is, at what point does that coin miner then become abused, right? At what point does that become open for abuse and not flagged or excluded, and other coin miners that aren't opted into start stealthing underneath that same kind of signature and opening up some sort of avenue there, right? And then, is this actually benefiting the consumer, right? When you look at the calculus for profitable coin mining between, system wear, energy consumption, and those other types of things that are taken into account when it's decided whether or not it's worth the resources to actually mine cryptocurrency X, that calculus really isn't occurring. So that it becomes a really interesting question of whether or not there's actually any material benefit accruing to the consumer in this case. And then there are fees and other things that are levied on top of it if they try to move whatever cryptocurrency they may have earned out of this custodial wallet into Coinbase or another exchange, or transmitted into a different or transacted into a different currency. There's all these fees that stack up on that, which are not proportional to the amount of cryptocurrency under transaction, right? So they're flat fees. So it may be a very long time before any one consumer has enough cryptocurrency in that wallet to make it actually viable to even transfer it out and get anything from it, right? So there are a host of very interesting questions that arise from this. And one of the really interesting ones, I think, is at what point does this become a bargaining chip in a licensing agreement where we're like, okay, we're going to charge you price X if you're going to allow the product to crypto mine, and we're going to charge you price Y if you opt out of that, right? So it's really interesting. It's certainly not widespread. It's basically one holding group that clearly seems to be implementing this strategy across their portfolio and consolidating quite a bit of, seems like, those down market kind of endpoint protection products, which are going to have a broad install base across a fairly unsophisticated user group, by and large, no offense intended, that, someone sitting in their home as an individual user of Norton or whatever, that's been their product for years, may not think twice about this. It might be like, oh, cool, I can mine cryptocurrency, great, and not really figure out why their power bill is suddenly an extra $20 higher, right? Where does that benefit lie? And so this is sort of a potential slippery slope that I came across that I can see being a really interesting thing to keep an eye on as we move into the coming months and years.
I wonder what other things it exposes besides, like cryptocurrency mining, one thing. I wonder what else they'll think of next in order to basically use your compute power. And maybe other products that don't use your compute power that maybe, again, will become these bargaining chips for getting you down to a lower price or something on the product. It's a very interesting story with a lot of interesting things. I had a ton of thoughts right away. In a way, for the company, what a brilliant idea, in essence, because even at 15% across all their user base there, they're going to make a lot. And, with the fees, they're pretty much guaranteed to convert the other 85%, it sounds like, into profit for themselves as well. The other thing I'm thinking about, what are they going to do with this crypto? I mean, I know it's a lot more investable now, and there's a lot more you can do to convert it back to cash. But I'm just curious kind of how much of it goes to their black budget, so to speak, versus, for as actually converted into profit. Just a lot of interesting kind of thoughts around it. I think we can just hypothesize or what this might mean.
I sit here thinking, because Avira is actually, and I'll just, I'll go out on the honest limb here, is it's the product I recommend to my less technical and, friends. I say, hey, you want to load a free antivirus. It doesn't get the highest scores. Sorry, Avira, but you don't. You don't get the highest scores, but you're free. You're free. You do the job, and there's always that thought in your head that, like we were saying, is there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? Tan Staffel, there's no such thing as a free lunch. So this is a way for maybe them to recoup some of that cost by charging a fee. But then I'm sitting here thinking, can I turn it off? And I guess that's the question, Michael. I mean, is that on by default? Is it something I can flip a bit and say, don't do this? I mean, or do I get a choice? If I choose the free product, I don't have a choice.
Yes. So there isn't any details about free version versus paid version. It is a toggle. from a screenshot. You can go in there and flip a toggle and turn it on or turn it off. And that's what they are calling an opt-in. But opt-in strategies are very, very interesting, right? So all those end user licensing agreements that clearly everyone pays very, very astute attention to before agreeing to anything, can say, if you click here, you have agreed to this, right? Yeah. And, these things could happen. Or at what point does it become an opt-out strategy, right? And really that almost depends on the risk tolerance of the corporate attorneys in charge of writing that end user license agreement, right? So that's likely going to vary product by product if this becomes more of a widely adopted practice. And it also opens up the attack surface for the end user, right? Because now they've got a cryptocurrency account somewhere that they may or may not understand or pay attention to. And so now there's just another attack surface for the attackers to go after there.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing, I'm still thinking of free, right? I love free. If we've lost, we're not supposed to do Kaspersky anymore, right? Because of some recent concerns, with international Russian resources. Kaspersky seems to be a pretty good product, but I know that if you do any work, U.S. government certainly is not Kaspersky friendly right now. Sorry, Matt. And then, but Avira is another good free product. You can get the paid version. But Avast, like you were saying, Avast is another free product that may have its drawbacks, and so you start thinking, are we back into a model where consumer antivirus is a paid proposition? We have Windows Defender and Microsoft gives us. But obviously, we said it's not enough. You need to build it in layers. And I'm thinking, are we back into the days, back in the 90s, early 2000s, where we just told everybody, you've got to buy an antivirus. Just buy one. It's something you just do every year or every couple years, and even sometimes get the updates, as a paid subscription model. I mean, maybe we're getting back to that if we want to avoid things like this.
I think it seems as though this is in addition to the fees they're already paying.
Yeah, true.
I think that there probably is a lot of effort. Not probably. There's a lot of effort that goes into cybersecurity research and developing some of these products and making sure that the updates are there to detect like the latest threats. So I think companies like this, all companies, they kind of have to think of new and unique monetization strategies to keep the products accessible and consumable. But if you think about it, sometimes as consumers, we save on the wrong things and like waste money somewhere else. It just like sometimes I think about like the grocery store. You might save 30 cents on milk, but you might get like a jar of cookies that cost $10 in the same shopping trip. Something like that. And I think when it comes to security, I think we have to be okay with paying for keeping ourselves secure. I think that probably most people in the future can't afford to be as ignorant of, setting up equipment correctly that's in their home that connects to the internet. They can still kind of be ignorant, but it'll cost them a lot more in the long run. With ransomware and things like that, with just all these fraud campaigns, the bad guys always find a way. And so to properly protect yourself, just like your house, you have an alarm system, you have insurance, you have all these things. And I think with your digital presence, you have to do the same. You can go with this freer products, but then eventually what happens is maybe they're not as good, or you get extra features that maybe you didn't like really sign up for. And they sound great until you like look at the contract and you're like, how much crypto am I getting in the end? So I kind of see both sides of it. I kind of see like I like things to be free or inexpensive as well. But then when you look at it, like the amount of effort that goes in and the research and just keeping up with the bad guys, there is continuous effort there. And these companies have to find creative ways to monetize. It's just this one is so creative. it just like blew my like.
Well,
when Mike mentioned it, I was like, wow.
Yeah, it's just scary because you got to think it's not only is it if I want, I'm generating like research power, it's costing me as much in power as the money I'm generating, or the Ethereum or whatever I'm generating. So, and the company's getting 15% off the top, so it's actually you're getting less money than what it's probably costing you in power to generate. Yes. And then, like you said, if you have to transfer it out of fee, out of one bank to another bank or coin, to another coin, in the end, it's actually costing the consumer probably more money, and it's invisible money because they're not going to think about it. They're not going to think about it. Yeah, they're not going to think the power. Okay, I generated power. Well, I just generate power all the time anyway. I have $10 in Ethereum. It's going to cost me $12 to move it over to so I can actually use it. Well, you just don't think about it. You just think I'll spend the money.
Yep,
it's interesting.
This is a great story. I love it. When you first brought it up, I was listening. I really at the edge of my seat to find out, like, how does this work? It sounds very creative at the very least. I'm curious how many people like actually keep their computers on like 24/7 for it to be that valuable anyway, or to use up that much power. But that's, I'm sure when you're looking at millions of users out there, it averages out correctly for the person collecting 15%.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. If the Norton LifeLock group ends up, posting some strong returns out of this strategy, it's going to propagate, because that's the way businesses operate. They not only look for their own ideas, they look at the ideas produced by others around them and say, I can work with that.
Yeah.
And so this is something that I think as an industry, we're going to need to watch. We're going to need to keep an eye on, especially in the cybersecurity space where the tools are intended to be on all the time, in order to keep us protected.